welcome to Extreme Graphics Tech. My name is Angelo, and well, 2022 is basically over. But before the year came to an end, I wanted to talk about, make a couple of videos, and this is one of them. You know, in my channel, this is a very small channel, and I appreciate each and every one of you that has subscribed to my channel, and even though that has watched and has not subscribed. Even though this is a small channel, there have been two videos that have been very successful, which are the one that I made up talking about RDNA 26800 and RDNA 15600. And I guess the reason why those videos are very popular is because, you know, people are trying to buy new video cards and they're looking for information out there. And well, I guess those were videos that people, you know, two cards that people were interested in, and my video came at a good point. And initially I wanted to buy a 1650, an Nvidia 1650, because I wanted to test why, besides price, this card is the most popular card on Steam. However, I realized that the Nvidia prices don't come so, you know, they don't change that much between new and used, at least not right now when they are not that old of a card. However, AMD card seems to go lower prices and faster, which makes more desirable for people buying on the second market. So for that reason is that today we're going to be talking about Vega 56. And look at this beauty of a card. It's an Asus S Rocks. It's a weird name. I think it's because they didn't want to use the Strix name. However, there is the Strix name, but on the back it doesn't say that. It says X Rocks, as you can see there, for whatever reason, and I don't know. But anyway, this is a very beautiful big car, beefy car, and it cost me only $120. And sometimes, you know, it's better to buy used than to buy a new card that is just going to be worse, especially considering the 1650 comes in 4 GB and this comes in 8 GB of VRAM. So the fact that in my Spanish channel, if you don't know, yes, I do have a Spanish channel too. I have spoken long before I created this channel about the RX 580. So, you know, having talked about Polaris and Navi and RDNA 1 and 2, I was thinking, you know, the only missing link here is the Vega generation, which comes with the Vega 56 and the Vega 64. And the reason I'm calling this card or this series of cards infamous is because it was a very weird moment for AMD. They came out with the Polaris card, which were, you know, middle ground cars. They were not top level cars, but they had a very good price. But they didn't have anything to actually compete against, like the 1070 Ti's, 1080s, 1080 Ti. So AMD released like the Vega 56 and Vega 64, which are cards that use HBM memories, which are super expensive. And you know, they were very generous with the amount of memory, but they were cards that were very expensive for the performance they were giving you at the time. Also, they were considered to be very power hungry and to be very, very hot. However, and I'm going to spoiler this here, I have to say this car has not been hot at all. But of course, this is an IB model and a beefy one. This car probably costed at least $200 more than the MSRP at the time, while probably the, you know, the Founders Edition, or, you know, the reference cars at the time were not very good with the heat that they were creating. This is not the case with this one in particular. And what happens is that, you know, nobody really recommended this car. Nobody. And actually, 1 year after these cars came out, like the AMD released the RX 590. So they were like a generation back to Polaris, and they released a Polaris car that, you know, was cheaper, good performance, not as good as this, but like a middle ground price. I don't know, it was a very weird moment for AMD, if you ask me. So Vega was always like a mystery to me, because at the time, you know, I wasn't very interested in Vega cards, because everybody was saying no. I was using a 1070. Actually, I was rocking two 1070 in SLI, and they were running very good. So Vega was never something I was interested in. I didn't even have a channel at the time, did I? No, yes, I did. So yeah, I thought, you know, this is a good time, because now for $120 you can have a car like this, or maybe, you know, similar to this. And I think $120 is a good price, as I said, considering that I would prefer to invest in something like this than in a 1650 with only 4 gigs of RAM, and this is going to cost less. We have tested the RX 580 and also the 5600 XT. This one has the advantage of having 2 GB of more VRAM. However, this had the disadvantage, as I said, of being more power hungry, so you will need at least a 500 good power supply depending on the CPU you have. So that's another thing. The 6050 can be used on many different power supplies, not even very good ones, because it doesn't use a lot of power, and in some cases you can even use some that don't have even the extra pin because they take all the powers from the PCI Express. So I thought, yeah, well, let's see, because I'm also curious about how this has aged, because as far as I understand, I have read and seen something around, it seems that this car hasn't aged very well, because the architecture is quite particular and it runs very well on some games, but not so very good on others. So let's see and take that conclusion for ourselves, okay? And let's start with Red Dead Redemption 2, and that's because a lot of people always ask me to test this game with the different cars. So as you can see here, the game runs very well at 1440p, no FSR, in the balance preset, in the middle of the balance preset. Normally there are very weird the presets for this game, but anyway, you can play this game all day long at 60 FPS. By the way, do you know that the Vega 56 is the same card that the Stadia servers were using, at least in terms of performance? So yeah, it was a bit weird on the how Stadia was not really taking advantage of these cards, but yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of those games that is going to run very well on this card. Then Dying Light 2, which by the way received just recently a patch for a better lighting system, and I am not sure if this is a placebo effect, but I honestly think it looks better now, but maybe I'm wrong and just making it up in my mind. In any case, this game at 1440p high quality FSR in quality mode runs very, very good, over 60 FPS all the time, and it has a very good graphic system. So yeah, I really recommend it. Obviously it doesn't use ray tracing because the Vega 56 or 64 don't support ray tracing, but yeah, I know a lot of people don't like ray tracing anyway, and this is a very good game. So yeah, it's running quite good, I will say, at this quality. Obviously you can just lower to a lower tier resolution or performance and the game will run better. God of War was a little bit disappointing if you ask me, because the game, I had to run at 1080p original to get over 60 FPS. If I go to 1080p high or ultra, then the game will dip under 60 FPS quite constantly, and obviously 1440p was out of the equation. I could have used probably FSR to play at 1440p, but I'm not sure if that defied the whole point. I think if you have to go to some cuts just to get some higher resolution, then there is no point. And what's weird, I think that the game doesn't run very well with this architecture. So Forza Horizon 4, however, is a game that I was, after seeing some of the results, I was very conservative with my settings, and I run a 1440p high, and you can see on the top right of the screen that it's going over 120 FPS, which is crazy. I wasn't expecting that sort of results with this game. And yes, this is the Forza 4 games. We're going to be looking at the Forza 5 later, but I wanted to start with this because I think it's a very popular game still, and it looks phenomenal. So wow, I wasn't expecting this, but this is a very well optimized game, I have to say. So yeah, it's better than I thought initially. When it comes to Spider-Man, well, we know this game is very CPU dependent, and well, the game ran okay considering we're running at 1440p very high. I would say it's more than a respectable results. This car was not made for this sort of behavior in this game, at least. However, I did find some hiccups from now and then, some stutter that was quite high. I'm not quite sure why was that happening. It didn't happen like specifically all the time, maybe when it was loading something, I'm not sure, but I haven't seen this with other cars, so I'm not sure if this is driver or the Vega 56 in itself, but it is a respectable result in any case. Having seen the result for Forza 4, I think I was a little bit too optimistic for Forza 5, because I put the setting not just at 1440p but also at ultra, going a little bit above what I put on Forza 4. And it's clear that Forza 5 is a more demanding game, because here we are barely touching the 60 FPS while we were at 120 on high on the Forza 4. So I think I should have been a little bit less conservative, but you can sure play at 60 FPS if you just lower to high or use FSR. Now, Gears 5 is another one of those games that are very well optimized, one of the better Unreal games in my opinion. And in this case, this game runs very, very well on the Vega 56 at 1440p high. We can maintain above 60 FPS and most times. Yes, there is a little dip here and there, but I don't think anyone will notice if it wasn't because of that counter over there. So honestly, this is a very good result, at least from my point of view. If you like Gears, you are going to enjoy this game like a lot. Unreal is not very good with AMD cards, but this is super well optimized. It's and the 4.2, by the way. Horizon Zero Dawn seems to be a game that benefits a lot from memory bandwidth, and this is seen here in this game. For some reason, MSI Afterburner didn't want to work, so you have that very small counter in the top right of the corner. However, you can see that at no point during this test at 1440p the counter goes under 60 FPS. And even when playing, because I do play all games to bring you the results for like half an hour to have a sort of idea. However, obviously I cannot show you the whole 30 minutes of gameplay. But anyway, here you can see this game runs very well, and I was expecting worse after seeing the God of War, but I think this game benefits more for memory bandwidth, and the Vega 56 has a lot. Now, this is a game that I was a little bit disappointed with the results. Maybe I was expecting too much, maybe this is right, but you know, I never could quite hit the 60 FPS, and I don't think is, you know, going under medium is worth it. Maybe you will say, well, activate FSR, but even by activating FSR, I was never really able to hit 60 constant FPS. And at 1080p, there is a point where I don't want to go lower when it comes to reconstruction techniques. At least, you know, not for a game like this that is not even using the ray tracing on this car. So I'm not quite sure what is wrong with the architecture on this game, but they are not good friends. However, this is still a respectable way to play the game, don't get me wrong. Guardians of the Galaxy was a game that I was expecting to be a lot worse, but it actually surprised me. So this is the problem with Vega 56. I'm not quite sure what to expect on any games. But well, you can see here I'm playing at 1080p, ultra settings, no FSR or anything, and the game is running over 60 FPS at all times at a very good quality. But quite happy with the results, and this is a phenomenal game. If you have not played this, I would recommend it because it was my game of the year for the 2021. Wow, that's a year ago already. Oh my goodness. Well, and I really recommend to anyone to play this game because it's really worth it. Now, for a playtale ranking, well, we know this game, we know the optimization and all of that. And yes, this game is showing that this car is faster than the RX 5080, which we had to limit to 30 FPS because it was never even going close to 40. However, in this game, even though we get close to 60, it's still not enough to, you know, get the 60. So the car is showing to be 40 to 50% maybe faster than the RX 580. We have to remember the 5600 XT is almost twice as fast as the 580. So yeah, this is in the middle, but unfortunately, it's not enough to get the 60 constant. So you either play with VR variable refresh rate monitor, or just, you know, leave it like that. This is another game I was honestly expecting more. For a 1080p game, I don't know, but I'm being sort of an old game. I was expecting to go much better. But yeah, we are barely touching 60 FPS. Yes, it's on very high, so we could just, you know, lower something, maybe use FSR. I think they added FSR to this one. Yeah, this one has FSR XCSS. So yeah, we could go probably to keep 60 FPS using FSR, but you know, at 1080p I prefer maybe to just play like this. Not exactly what I was expecting, not a bad result, but not as good as I thought it should be. And finally, I end with Modern Warfare 2, which of course is one of those multiplayer games. So at the beginning you can see it's going under 60, but as soon as we get into the game itself, we are always going over 60 and probably always going over 70 in this benchmark. So yeah, it's not bad, and especially considering we are playing at 1440p. If you buy this car and playing at 1080p, you can expect a lot more frames depending on your CPU and also the quality. I play on balance, so you can go lower, of course. Many people do that for esports and competitive gaming, but I think, because I'm not that dedicated to this sort of games, for me, I also look for some quality in the graphics I'm looking. If I'm going to die, I want to die looking good at least. So, so I like to play these games in that sort of quality. So you can see here, oh yeah, we saw a dip there for that explosion, but I don't think it's a very important particular dip. So after testing lots of games, you can see that the car is, I am not sure what I was expecting. I'm not sure if I am disappointed or I think it's correct. Maybe if I bought this car when it came out and I had paid $400, because that's the price that the car came at MSRP for the reference cars, I would have probably been very disappointed. This car, yes, you can flash it to Vega 64 and apparently you will get 10 to 20% more performance, but I normally don't like to do that, not because I'm going to damage them or anything, but because I want to keep testing them over time and I want them as they were originally. So the good thing is this car is still driver supported, so that's one good thing if you buy this car now. And from my point of view, at the time it will have been very disappointed. Right now I will probably go and spend a little bit more and go to the 5600 or anything RDNA one at least. But if depending on your country, things are different, prices are, this is not a bad car, but you have to limit your expectations and understand this is probably going to be more of a 1080p card than anything, which I don't think is anything bad. Anyone probably shopping around for these sort of cards are going to play at 1080p, even though we tested some games because I try to push the graphic fidelity and resolution as much as possible to not make the CPU be a bottleneck. We can see that we can play some games at 4040p, especially now with FSR that will help on some titles. The thing is that I'm not sure, maybe I have a bad memory or something, but I feel on some games it doesn't perform as well as I thought. Like in this game, it's supposed to perform better, but it's like not, and then another game just is performing very well. So there is probably something very weird with the architecture, the fact that the HBM memory will help some titles more than other because of the big bandwidth. But anyway, this is the case, and I think Vega 56 is a weird part of the AMD history that I love to have now in my collection of GPUs, because now I have at least from even I have the R9 270 and some other cars, so I have mostly the last 10 or 12 years of AMD GPU cars in my collection, and that's a good thing because we can keep testing. I will like to have some more NVIDIA cards like the 1650, 1660 and some other models around to be able to test more. But well, I'm sure that many people are going to get some money now for the 24th, 25th of December, and they will be looking to upgrade their PCs. They don't want to spend too much, or they can't spend too much. Everybody's buying RTX 4080, 4090, even 3060 Ti's are probably out of budget for many people. Even at 3060, that's why the 1650 is the most popular car on the market at the moment according to Steam. So if you, instead of going that route of getting a new car, you can get something like this or an RX 5600 XT. As I said, this one cost me around $120. The RX 580 cost me around $80, and the 5600 XT I think is around $140. But of course, that's prices on my country, so that can differ. But this is right in the middle in terms of pricing. So if you can find something like this and a reasonable price, I think it will be a card that will last you, especially because it has 8 gigabytes of VRAM, so that's not going to run on VRAM anytime soon, and by the time it does, you probably will be changing the graphics card anyway. Let's just hope that AMD doesn't cut the driver support very soon, because that's one thing AMD tend to do. But other than that, I think the Vega 56 is a good investment if you find a good price. And the 5600 XT or similar are much more expensive. For $20 or $30 more, I would prefer the 5600 XT, even if it has less VRAM. But if not, then this, if it's like $50 to $100 more, maybe the Vega 56 is the best investment. Of course, if you find a Vega 64, that's a little bit better, but it's also much more power hungry, so you have to be careful with that. In any case, Vega 56, those were my results, so you from there can take your own decision. I know I don't test many esports games, but I think it's more important for me to test very heavy, graphically demanding games, because if they run well on this card, for sure that esports games are going to run well. So that's why I prefer to test AAA, because that way, you know, if this is how it's running on this game, it's going to run very well on the others. And you'll also have some ideas, because the other way around doesn't work. Like if you see a card, you know, esports game running very well on a card, doesn't mean then AAA games are going to run very well, because you don't know, you don't have a point of reference. So thank you for everything, guys. If you like the video, please subscribe. You will make me very happy if we go up in subscribers by the end of the year, you know, to make the channel more successful and to bring more content every time I can. Thank you very much, and see you on the next video.